Okay, let's stay with football because, of course, the big news came out of the Bafana camp where the coach resigned yesterday, casting doubt on Safa's much-hyped Vision 2022 project that, of course, Baxter was supposed to lead. The 62-year-old Brit replaced Sheikh Mashaba in 2016 following the latter's public spat with the powers that be at Safa. Baxter has been under a lot of scrutiny, especially after failing to take Bafana to the World Cup last year and the shoddy display at the AFCON tournament in Egypt last month. Let's hear what Baxter had to say at his exit presser yesterday.
I do, however, feel that someone else should now continue this project, and therefore I will be resigning from my position as head national coach with Safa. I feel that I cannot continue to work with the required professionalism and passion that I have done, and to deal with the many issues that will be involved with this program. Excuse me. A coach must have confidence that his input will help forward the project, and at this moment in time, and particularly after the experience of AFCON, my belief in that process has weakened considerably. I've chosen not to point fingers in the past and will not do that now. I'm a professional, and even when it would have been easier for me personally to blame others, I've remained focused on what I could do to affect the situation and trying to retain a level of integrity.
Okay, now, as I said, joining me in studio is sports analyst and journalist Sinikiwe Klabanisa, and from our sports desk, Sandile Kangose. Gentlemen, good to have you with you. Good to have you with us. Good to have you with you. That's fantastic English, isn't it? All right, guys, listen, it's been... Sims, first, let me start with you. Were you expecting this resignation of Baxter?
No. You know, I don't know, maybe because I'm not exactly directly involved with soccer. Yeah. My reading is very sort of big picture, if you want to call it that. We hadn't qualified for AFCON in how long? I think since 2002 or something weird like that. We hadn't made the quarterfinals since 2013. So if you do that, if you qualify first and make the quarterfinals, to me that means it's not a, to quote the report just now, shoddy display. But clearly there were issues, issues being, he talks about issues, he had issues with media, the reporting.
Yeah, but look, we made the quarterfinals, but the way we made the quarterfinals, you might want to say maybe that's where the shoddy comes in, isn't it?
I don't know, my thing is, it's very simple. How do you rebuild a team that has underperformed for years? You start by making it defensively sound so that people cannot put goals past you. That's the first thing.
Yep.
And then you can get to the bells and whistles of, what does our attack look like? At the end of the day, Bafana qualified based on the rules of the competition for the quarterfinals and having beaten host Egypt, which is one of the legendary teams on this continent.
Yep.
And so sometimes you've actually just got to take the emotion of how you would like it to be and actually just deal with what it is. And what it is South Africa made the quarterfinals for the first time in 6 years in this competition. And that's all I care about. It's the big picture. What does it say?
Yeah.
The big picture says we made a slight step forward.
But we've all been looking forward to some fantastic football from Bafana, not just, sneaking into quarterfinals of tournaments and that type of thing. I mean, look, these are players coming out of the PSL. The PSL is the most valuable league on the continent, on the African continent. It's got all of this fanfare around it, and yet we fail to go anywhere. Sandile.
I know you're going to make the point about the PSL being, low quality. I'm going to argue that point. I mean, if you've never seen a Orlando Pirates versus Mamelodi Sundowns game, then you don't know about the PSL. So the PSL is quality. Yep. The only problem is our administrators and our coaching. In fact, the lack of quality in the coaching department.
But there was no administrator or coach on the field on the day of play.
That doesn't mean it can't affect what's happening on the field of play, though. That's the point to be had there. So we need better quality in terms of our administration, better quality in terms of our coaches. Let's not forget, Stuart Baxter was not our first-choice coach. So that tells a story in of itself.
Yep.
So had we had our first-choice coach, which according to all these reports was Herve Renner, he wanted to come with his own technical team, Safa refused and whatnot. Even for me, he wouldn't have been my best choice, just in my own personal opinion. But I can't fault Safa there. He's done his thing. He's won multiple AFCONs with different African nations. So I'm just saying we need better quality in terms of our administrators and better quality in terms of our coaches. That's what we need.
That's what we need. Listen, Baxter also said yesterday that he's is not ready for people who would sacrifice the success of the team as long as they kept their positions of power. So for the coach who comes in next, whoever that may be, he's going to face the exact same problems. So why coach Bafana in the first place?
That's a very good question. I mean, every coach that's ever coached Bafana has had to go up against Safa. You look at Shakes Mashaba, you look at whoever else, you look at Clive Barker back in the day. There have always been issues with Safa, even when a coach is successful. You know, so these are the inherent issues that any coach has to deal with. And you've seen the same reflected in your rugby and in your cricket to lesser extents also. So it tells me across the board in South African sport we have a problem with our administration.
So what is wrong with Safa?
Look, I think the other bigger issue was Baxter ultimately didn't quite read the room in terms of the country. You know, some of the things he was saying about South Africa as a country in terms of, oh, if we need the team to inspire us, then we have a problem as a country. You know, that's not understanding the impact of sport in this country. And so what I'm saying is, yes, there'll always be these problems that you talk about administratively, but essentially you also need in your coach someone who understands the lie of the land, someone who understands the culture of the people, and I got the impression that there was a definite break there. Yeah. I don't think Baxter did a bad job, but I do think when it came to the relationships all around, he didn't quite get that right.
Okay, boys, who's next? Who comes up next now? Who takes over?
It's like a conveyor belt.
It's a conveyor belt.
I'll tell you who I want. I want Peter Musimane, I want Benny McCarthy, and I want Gavin Hunt as a coaching panel. That's exactly who I want. I've heard people on social
media. A coaching panel?
Coaching panel, yes. What else has worked in our history?
You want three guys?
Yes, I want three guys. I want three guys.
Isn't that too many voices and too many?
No. Maybe we've gotten to a point where that's something that we actually need. Because what else is working? Nothing. You've had, singular coaches who are South African, hasn't worked. They've been, put out by Safa. You've had singular coaches who came from overseas, as in Stuart Baxter. That hasn't also panned out for us. So maybe let's think outside of the box. That's just my opinion.
I like the idea, but my question is, would they want to coach with each other?
Yeah, egos start
exactly.
coming to play.
I mean, look,
but at national level, maybe not so much. Maybe you have to start investing into the national ethos and the national agenda, which is taking our football forward. And I think all three of those guys, we can agree, do have that in their locker. Surely.
Listen, let me give you three names here that have been bandied about. The Saturday Citizen, the newspaper, they put out the names of Benny McCarthy, Gavin Hunt, Pizzo as well. But why would Pizzo leave his Sundowns? I mean, why would I do that?
Because he's been there forever and he's achieved absolutely everything there. There's no point in him continuing. He's got to. He has to move this bus elsewhere. Yep. Whether that means taking a job with Wydad like he was supposed to, or if it's a national team somewhere or here.
Or you could just end up being Alex Ferguson and keep winning.
Just keep winning. All right, that's exactly what I would do. All right, guys, enough about football.